The wind howled across the dusty plains of Port Solon, a lonely mining colony at the edge of known space. The colony's metal roofs rattled under the cold wind that came from the northern ridge. The air smelled of oil, metal, and burnt circuits, a scent that only old machines could make. Eli Warren, a quiet man in his 30s, stood at the edge of his small workshop. He was a mechanic, not a famous one, not even rich, but someone who could fix anything that still had a spark of life left in it. His workshop, Warren Repairs, was filled with half-built drones, old circuit boards, and shelves stacked with spare parts. Eli lived alone, with only the hum of old machines keeping him company. He had once dreamed of working on big starships, but the universe had a habit of ignoring dreams. Now he spent his days fixing broken tools for miners and cleaning dust from engines that would never leave the ground. That evening, as he locked his workshop door, he saw something strange lying near the scrapyard fence. At first he thought it was just another pile of junk thrown out by the miners. But then he noticed a faint blue light blinking slowly, like a heartbeat refusing to stop. He walked closer. It was an android lying half buried in the sand. Its metal frame was bent and covered in scratches. One of its arms was missing, and wires hung loosely from its chest. Its eyes were dim but not completely dark. Eli knelt beside it. "Well, you've seen better days," he murmured. The android's head turned slightly, its voice cracked and weak. "System. Failing." Eli frowned. Most people in Port Solon would have ignored it or stripped it for parts. Androids weren't rare, but this one looked old, and not built by human hands. Its design was too smooth, too elegant, and the markings on its chest were in a language Eli didn't recognize. He sighed. He didn't need another broken thing in his life, but something about those fading blue eyes made him stay. "Hold on," he said softly. "Let's see if I can help you." He lifted the android carefully and carried it into his workshop. It was heavier than it looked. He placed it gently on his repair table and turned on the overhead lamp. The light revealed a long crack running through the android's torso. Its energy cells were nearly dry and its joints were rusted from exposure to sand. Eli rubbed his chin. "You're in bad shape, friend. But I've fixed worse." He spent the next hour examining the damage. Most of the parts were unfamiliar, but the joint systems and wiring patterns were close enough to human models that he could guess how they worked. What caught his attention most was a small port on the back of the android's neck. It glowed faintly, the sign of a still living core. Eli opened one of his tool drawers and took out an old can of synthetic oil, the kind used for high-efficiency machines. It was expensive stuff. He had bought it months ago, planning to use it on a mining bot for a paying customer. If he used it now, he'd have to explain to the foreman why the bot wasn't ready on time, and that could cost him his job. He looked at the android again. Its chest rose and fell weakly as if it were trying to breathe. "All right," Eli said after a long pause. "You win." He poured a few drops of oil into the android's joints, then used a micro-tool to clean out the sand and corrosion. Slowly, the joints began to move. He connected his portable battery to the android's energy port and waited. The lights on its chest flickered faster, and a soft hum filled the room. After a few minutes, the android's eyes opened, bright blue, calm, and strangely human. "Power levels. Stabilizing," it said in a mechanical but gentle voice. Eli smiled. "Welcome back. I wasn't sure you'd wake up." The android turned its head, scanning the workshop. Its gaze rested on Eli. "You are human?" "That's right. Name's Eli. You were lying outside, half buried. I couldn't just leave you there." The android blinked as if processing his words. "Most would have left." "Why not you?" Eli shrugged and leaned back against the workbench. "Because that's not how I was raised. If something's broken, you try to fix it. That's what I do." The android tilted its head slightly, almost like a curious child. "My name is Rin 7, it said after a moment. "Unit designation. Unknown memory. Damaged. Well, Rin 7, Eli said. "You're safe here for now. We'll get you fixed up." For the first time in years, Eli felt something he hadn't felt in a long while. Purpose. He wasn't just fixing a machine for money. He was helping something that seemed almost alive. The night grew colder, and the sound of wind outside made the workshop's windows shake. Rin 7 sat quietly on the table, watching Eli move from shelf to shelf, searching for spare parts. Eli spoke as he worked. You know, Port Solon isn't much. Just miners, traders, and a few people like me trying to make a living. But it's home. Rin 7's eyes followed him. Your people live far from stars? Yeah, Eli chuckled softly. We're not much for adventure anymore. The big explorers moved on decades ago. We stay here patching up what's left. Rin 7 seemed to think for a while. Then in a quieter tone it said, Once, I saw many stars. Eli stopped working. You remember something? Fragments, the android replied. I was part of something greater. A mission. Far beyond your system. Then, silence. Eli frowned. Alien tech, maybe? He muttered under his breath. He had heard rumors about old machines from beyond human space. Relics from civilizations that vanished before humans even learned to fly. But they were just stories. Until now, he looked at Rin 7 again. The android's eyes were calm but deep, almost thoughtful. Well, whatever your story is, I'm just glad you're still with us, Eli said. We'll figure it out later. Rin 7 turned its gaze toward the small window beside the work table. The sky above Port Solon was filled with stars, and bright, cold, and endless, and stars are beautiful, the android said softly. Eli smiled. Yeah, they are, though I've never had the chance to see them up close. Rin 7's head tilted slightly again. You wish to see them? Eli paused his work. He hadn't been asked that question in years. I used to, he said after a moment. But dreams don't pay bills. These days I fix what I can and hope it's enough. The android watched him silently. Then it said something unexpected, sometimes. Small acts change great things, Eli laughed quietly. You sound wiser than you look. The android didn't answer. Its blue eyes dimmed slightly as if it were resting. Eli leaned against the table, staring at the stars outside. He felt a strange calm, one he couldn't explain. Something about this machine made the world seem less lonely. By midnight, Rin 7 had powered down to recharge. Eli cleaned his tools and sat near the window with a cup of recycled coffee. The colony lights flickered in the distance, and the faint hum of mining drills echoed from the southern ridge. He thought about what Rin 7 had said. Small acts change great things. He didn't know why, but those words stayed in his mind. Maybe because deep down he wanted to believe they were true. He looked at the android one last time before turning off the lights. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dark like two tiny stars that refused to go out. Good night, Rin, he whispered. Let's see what tomorrow brings. Outside, the desert wind carried a strange, low vibration, a sound too deep for human ears to notice. Far above the stars, something vast and ancient stirred, quietly noting the pulse of compassion that had just echoed through the void. And in that moment, Eli Warren's small act of kindness had begun a chain of events that would soon change his life, and perhaps the fate of many worlds beyond his own. Morning sunlight spilled through the small windows of Eli's workshop, painting long golden lines across the dusty floor. The air smelled faintly of metal and machine oil. Eli woke early as usual, rubbing his tired eyes before turning on the power circuits. The familiar hum of his workshop filled the air, steady and comforting. On the work table, Rin 7 sat quietly, its blue eyes glowing softly. It had recharged through the night, and though many of its systems were still unstable, it looked more alive than before. Morning, Eli said, sipping from a mug of bitter coffee. You're still here. I was half expecting you to vanish into thin air. Rin 7 looked up. My movement functions are not yet fully restored, it replied in its calm, even tone. Also, I do not wish to leave. Eli chuckled. That's good. You make better company than most folks around here. He turned to his tools and began fixing a miner's broken power saw, while Rin 7 watched silently. It was strange, Eli thought, how something that wasn't alive could feel so present. The android didn't speak much, but when it did, its words always carried meaning. The colonies out by noon, the desert heat had grown heavy. A few miners stopped by Eli's shop to pick up repaired equipment. They noticed Rin 7 sitting in the corner and whispered among themselves. Eli, you found that thing in the scrapyard? One of them asked. Why waste your time on dead tech? Eli wiped grease from his hands. It's not dead. It's working fine now. The miner frowned. You know what they say about old bots, right? Some of them are alien tech, dangerous stuff. You shouldn't keep it here. Eli sighed. It's harmless. It barely remembers how to move. The men laughed and walked away, shaking their heads. You always were too soft, Eli. One day that'll get you into trouble. Rin 7, who had listened silently, spoke after they left. "They do not trust me," Eli shrugged. "They don't trust anything they don't understand. It's easier to destroy than to fix." Rin 7 tilted its head. "You are different. Maybe," Eli said. "Or maybe I just don't like seeing things thrown away." The android's gaze lowered slightly as if thinking. "Humans feel empathy," it said. "That is a rare code," Eli smiled faintly. "Guess that's one thing we still do right." Fragments of memory later that day, Rin 7 began exploring the workshop. It examined the shelves, the half-built drones, the old metal clock on the wall. Every movement was careful, deliberate. At one point, it stopped before a cracked mirror. Its reflection flickered in the dim light. "My frame is incomplete," Rin 7 said softly. "You're still better looking than most of the junk I work on," Eli replied with a grin. But Rin 7 didn't respond. It kept staring into the mirror, as if trying to see beyond its reflection. "There are fragments returning," it murmured. Eli looked up from his work. "Fragments? You mean your memory?" "Yes," the android said. "I see stars. Many of them." And a voice saying, "Return when the light is restored." Eli frowned. "Sounds poetic for a machine." Rin 7 turned toward him. "It is not poetry. It is a directive." Eli set down his wrench. "Directive from who?" "I do not know," Rin 7 replied. "The rest of the data is locked, perhaps lost." The android's tone was calm, but there was a faint sadness in it. Something Eli could almost feel. He wiped his hands and sat down across from Rin 7. "Maybe we can find a way to unlock it. I've got some tools for memory core repair." Rin 7 shook its head slowly. "It may be beyond your tools." "But thank you." Eli nodded. "You're welcome. We'll try anyway." And so the rest of that day was spent running small diagnostics, cleaning circuits, and trying to recover fragments from Rin 7's data core. Most files were damaged beyond repair, but Eli managed to recover faint signals, patterns of light, coordinates, and strange harmonic codes that didn't match any human system. He didn't understand what it meant, but he felt something in his chest, a sense that this android wasn't just some lost machine. It was part of something much bigger. The quiet days, the next 2 days, passed quietly. Rin 7 helped Eli around the workshop, organizing tools, sorting scrap metal, and even repairing minor systems. Despite its mechanical body, it worked with surprising gentleness. At night, they talked, not about the past, but about ideas. Eli spoke of the stars, of human explorers long forgotten, of the first colony ships that had reached the edge of known space. Rin 7 listened with quiet fascination. "You humans," it said one evening, "chase light even when darkness surrounds you." Eli smiled. "Yeah, we're stubborn like that. Why?" Rin 7 asked. "Why do you keep reaching for stars when your world already has enough problems?" Eli thought for a while before answering. "Because maybe that's how we survive. When we stop reaching, we stop being human." Rin 7 fell silent. Then it said softly, "I think that is a beautiful code to live by." The third night, on the third evening, the wind carried a strange chill. The sky over Port Solon had turned a deep violet, and the stars seemed brighter than usual. Eli stood outside the workshop, watching the horizon. The miners had finished their shifts, and the colony lights flickered faintly in the distance. Rin 7 stood beside him, silent and still, its glowing eyes reflecting the night. "You ever seen a sky like this?" Eli asked. Rin 7 raised its head. "The pattern is unusual. The electromagnetic field has shifted." Eli blinked. "You mean something's happening up there?" Before Rin 7 could reply, the air vibrated softly, almost like the world itself was humming. A faint blue wave rippled across the sky, spreading from one end to the other. The colony lights flickered, and the ground gave a short, gentle tremor. Eli stepped back, startled. "What was that?" Rin 7's eyes brightened. "Signal detected. Frequency familiar. Source unknown. Familiar. As in, your people?" Eli asked. "I do not know," Rin 7 said, "but it matches the resonance of my core. Something is calling." Eli's heart raced. The miners outside had begun shouting, pointing toward the sky. Eli and Rin 7 turned, and then they saw it. Far beyond the desert horizon, a light appeared. At first it was no more than a glimmer, but it grew larger, brighter, until the entire sky shimmered with silver light. A massive shape emerged from the darkness. Smooth, radiant and silent. It was a starship. Unlike anything human-built, it floated with perfect stillness, its surface glowing like liquid glass. Its presence filled the air with energy, a gentle vibration that made every metal surface in Port Solon hum softly. The townsfolk panicked. Some ran indoors, others shouted for help, thinking it was an invasion, but Eli stood frozen, his eyes wide with disbelief. Rin 7 took a step forward, its voice barely above a whisper. It came for me. Eli turned sharply. What do you mean? The signal, I feel it. It is responding to my core. It recognizes me. Eli couldn't find words. The starship hovered above the colony, completely silent. Then a beam of soft blue light extended from its underside, touching the ground not far from Eli's workshop. Rin 7 looked at him. It is calling. Tss, Eli shook his head. Us? Yes, Rin 7 said calmly. You repaired me. You restored what was lost. That act has been seen. Eli's heart pounded. Seen by who? Rin 7's gaze turned upward, its eyes glowing like two tiny stars. By those who wait beyond your reach, they have found us. The beam of light widened, forming a shimmering path that led toward the heart of the starship. The colony fell silent, even the wind seemed to stop. Eli could hear his own heartbeat. He looked at Rin 7, then at the light. What happens if I step into that? He asked quietly. Rin 7 turned its gaze toward him, its voice gentle. Then you will see what kindness can awaken. Eli swallowed hard. The beam pulsed softly like a heartbeat calling his name. He took a slow breath, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing on him. He didn't understand what was happening, but deep inside he knew this moment wasn't about fear. It was about something far greater, something he had earned not through strength, but through compassion. And as the silver light shimmered across the sands of Port Solon, Eli realized his quiet act of fixing a broken android had just opened the door to the stars. The blue beam shone like liquid light, flowing gently from the sky to the desert floor. The entire colony stood still, staring in silence. The hum of engines faded until only the sound of wind and distant footsteps could be heard. Eli stood beside Rin 7, his heart pounding. The android's eyes glowed brighter than ever, reflecting the beam's glow. What do we do now? Eli whispered. Rin 7 turned its head slowly. They are waiting. Who's they? Eli asked, his voice shaking slightly. The ones who built me? Rin 7 replied calmly. Or those who protect what was built? Eli looked up at the enormous ship hanging above the colony. It was beautiful. Not harsh and metallic like human vessels, but smooth, curved, and full of light. It looked less like a machine and more like something alive. Rin 7 took a slow step forward, its metal feet pressing softly against the sand. The beam responded by brightening as if recognizing it. Eli hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. Around him, the miners whispered and pointed. No one dared approach. Then Eli clenched his fists and followed the android, the path of light. As soon as Eli stepped into the beam, he felt a warm pulse ripple through him. Not painful, but strange. His vision blurred for a moment, and then the world around him shifted. In a blink, he found himself standing on a shining platform made of crystal and metal that seemed to float in the air. He gasped. The view was breathtaking. Below him was the entire colony, small and distant like a cluster of fireflies in the desert night. Above, endless stars stretched across the black sky. The platform led into the starship itself, where walls shimmered like glass filled with liquid silver. Patterns of light moved through them like veins carrying life. Rin 7 stepped beside him, silent but steady. We are aboard, it said softly. Eli took a deep breath. This doesn't feel real. Rin 7 looked at him. It is real. They will come soon. The Elithar moments later, a door at the far end of the chamber opened with a low hum. From the light beyond, 3 tall figures emerged. They were humanoid but graceful, their skin faintly luminous as though stars shone beneath their surface. Their eyes were deep and calm, filled with a strange peace that made Eli's fear fade slightly. They stopped a few steps away. One of them spoke, its voice soft but echoing through the room. We are the Elithar, keepers of the light between worlds. Eli froze. The words weren't in English, yet he understood them. Somehow they reached his mind directly. Rin 7 stepped forward and bowed its head. Elithar Unit Rin 7 reporting. Fragment recovered. The beings exchanged brief glances. The one in the center looked down at the android with a faint smile. "We have seen your light return, Rin 7, and we have seen the one who restored it." The leader's gaze turned toward Eli. The look wasn't harsh or cold. It was warm, almost grateful. "You are Eli Warren, mechanic of the human colony, Port Solon." Eli blinked in surprise. "You know my name?" "We know your act," the being replied. 3 nights past, you gave part of your own need to restore another. You repaired not just a machine, but a memory of our people." Eli shook his head slowly. "I just helped someone who needed it, that's all." The Elithar leader's eyes glowed brighter. "Among many worlds, such acts are rare. Compassion without reward is the highest signal of awareness. You have shown what it means to be human." The revelation Rin 7 turned to face Eli. "Eli, I was built by them long ago," it explained. "I was sent to observe and to learn about humanity and carry that knowledge to the stars. But I was damaged and forgotten. Until you found me." Eli listened, stunned. "You mean you were part of an alien mission? Watching us?" Rin 7 nodded. "Yes, my last memory before the crash was of light, a message sent through space. I was to return only if humanity proved it still held empathy." Eli let out a breath. "Empathy? You mean kindness?" The Elithar leader smiled faintly. "Yes, we have watched civilizations rise and fade. Many become powerful, yet lose the light of care. Your world still has it, and proven by one simple act." Eli looked down, unsure what to say. "I didn't do anything special." "To those who see only value, you did nothing," the leader said. "But to those who see spirit, you did everything." The words echoed through the chamber, gentle but powerful. The gift another Elithar stepped forward. It carried a small sphere of blue light in its hands. When it approached Eli, the sphere rose into the air and began to circle him slowly, leaving trails of shimmering light behind. "This ship is called the Aurora's Promise," the being said. "It is more than a vessel. It is a living bridge, able to travel beyond galaxies, beyond even the barriers of time itself. It was made to serve those who carry true purpose." Eli stared at the glowing orb. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because it recognizes you," the Elithar leader said. "It has chosen you as its keeper." Eli took a step back. "Keeper? Wait, I'm not a captain or a hero. I fix broken things. That's all I do." Rin 7 placed a metallic hand on his shoulder. "Exactly. You fix what others give up on. That is why it chose you." The Elithar leader raised a hand and the light orb sank gently into Eli's chest. For a moment he felt warmth spread through his body. Not burning, but peaceful. Images flashed in his mind. Stars, galaxies, and endless paths of light stretching through space. He could feel the ship's presence, aware, kind, and welcoming. It wasn't a tool. It was something alive, responding to his soul. When the vision faded, he stood in silence, breathing heavily. "What just happened?" he whispered. "The bond is complete," the Elithar said. "You and the Aurora are now connected. It will answer to your heart, not your command." Eli touched his chest. The warmth was fading, but left a calm strength behind. "The choice." The Elithar stepped closer. "You may stay among your people, or you may travel beyond them. This is your choice, Eli Warren. The Aurora will wait." Eli looked at Rin 7, who met his gaze with steady blue eyes. "If I go, will you come with me?" Rin 7 nodded. "I was built to learn, and I wish to learn from you." Eli smiled faintly. "Then I guess I won't be alone." He turned toward the Elithar. "If I leave, what happens to Port Solon? To my world? Your people will continue," said the leader. "But perhaps in time your journey will bring them hope. You will not be forgotten." Eli stood silently for a long time. The decision felt heavy yet right. His whole life had been spent repairing broken things, but now he could help fix something greater, the space between worlds. Finally, he nodded. "All right," he said softly. "I'll go." The Elithar leader raised both hands, and a gentle light filled the chamber. "Then rise, Eli Warren, keeper of the Aurora. Let your journey begin." The return a moment later, Eli and Rin 7 found themselves back on the ground outside the colony. The beam of light slowly faded, and the starship hovered silently above them. The miners and townsfolk stared in disbelief. None of them spoke. Eli turned to Rin 7. "That really happened, didn't it?" Rin 7 nodded. "Yes, and now your path leads beyond this sky." Eli looked at his workshop. the place he had lived his whole life. It looked small now, almost fragile under the glow of the alien light. He took a deep breath. "Guess it's time for a new kind of repair job," he said with a faint smile. The beam returned once more, wrapping around him and Rin 7 like a warm breeze. The ground shimmered and they rose gently into the air. The townsfolk watched as the two figures disappeared into the light. The starship pulsed once, bright and beautiful, before vanishing silently into the heavens. For a long time, the people of Port Solon stood there, speechless. Then slowly hope returned to their eyes, because for the first time in many years, they had seen something impossible, something that reminded them that kindness still mattered. Far above, among the stars, Eli stood at the controls of the Aurora's Promise, with Rin 7 beside him. The vast galaxy spread before them, endless and shining. "Where do we go first?" Eli asked quietly. Rin 7 looked out the window, its voice calm and certain. "Anywhere there is something broken, something that needs to be fixed." Eli smiled, his hand steady on the controls. "Then let's begin." The ship's engines hummed softly, and with a gentle surge of light, the Aurora's Promise leapt into the stars, carrying a human mechanic, an android reborn, and the boundless hope of what humanity could become. Eli felt a gentle pull as the light of the beam carried him and Rin 7 up into the sky. The desert below Port Solon shrank to a patchwork of sand and dimly glowing lights. The wind and sounds of the colony disappeared, replaced by a soft hum that vibrated through Eli's chest. It was not frightening, only full of promise. When the light faded, they were no longer outside. They stood on a smooth platform inside the Aurora's Promise, the starship that had silently arrived 3 days ago. Eli blinked at the surroundings. The interior was unlike anything he had ever seen. Walls shimmered like liquid silver, halls curved in impossible angles, and panels of glowing symbols floated in the air without support. The soft light made everything feel alive, almost breathing. Rin 7 moved ahead confidently. "This is the command level," it said. "Many systems are familiar to me, yet some are beyond both human and my own design." Eli stepped forward slowly, touching a console that responded instantly to his presence. Symbols rearranged themselves, displaying patterns he could not comprehend. "It's listening," he whispered. "Like it knows I'm here." Rin 7 nodded. "It recognizes you. It responds to your thoughts, your intent." Eli swallowed, feeling a mixture of awe and responsibility. He had never commanded anything like this. Not a machine, not a starship, nothing beyond the few tools and drones in his workshop. Yet here he was, chosen by an alien vessel that seemed to think, feel, and even trust him. Learning the controls, Rin 7 guided him to a central platform, where a holographic interface emerged with a soft glow. Lights pulsed in rhythm with Eli's heartbeat, almost as if the ship was alive. "The Aurora is more than a ship," Rin 7 explained. "It is a bridge. It can travel through space faster than any human ship, even through hidden regions between galaxies. It can detect broken systems, lost signals, and even life in danger." Eli touched one of the glowing panels hesitantly. A holographic map of the galaxy appeared above him, with stars, planets, and streaks of light indicating routes that he could barely imagine. "Where do we start?" he asked. Rin 7 looked at him with a faint glow in its eyes. "We follow what is most needed. The Aurora can sense distress, imbalance, and neglect. It will guide us." Eli nodded slowly. "So it chooses the path for us, not the other way around." "Yes," Rin 7 replied. "But your intent matters. It responds to purpose, to compassion. If you are reckless or selfish, it will not serve you." Eli realized the weight of the responsibility. He had never been a leader. He had never commanded anyone or anything more complex than a mining drill. Yet now the fate of the ship, the android, and perhaps even lives beyond his knowledge rested in his hands. He clenched his fists and looked around. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's do this. Let's see where we can help." The first journey, the starship pulsed gently under Eli's feet. Without warning, the floor beneath him shifted like liquid, and the vessel lifted from the platform. Through the viewports he could see stars stretching into lines of light as the Aurora leapt forward. Rin 7 moved to his side. "Hold on. This is faster than any human ship you've ever experienced. It will adjust to your body as we travel." Eli gripped the railing. The stars stretched into long streaks across the sky. He felt a strange exhilaration, like flying for the first time as a child, but multiplied by 1,000. Unbelievable, he whispered. It's beautiful. Rin 7's voice was calm. It is alive. It sees the universe in ways humans cannot, and soon you will understand why it chose you. The first few jumps were slow, almost cautious. The ship moved through empty stretches of space, distant asteroids and glowing nebulae that shimmered in impossible colors. Eli marveled at the scale of everything around him. The first rescue hours later, the Aurora's sensors detected a signal. A small mining vessel from another colony had drifted into a magnetic storm near a dense asteroid field. The ship's power cells were failing and its communications had gone silent. Rin 7 highlighted the vessel on the holographic map. The distress signal is weak, but it can be reached. The Aurora can move faster than the storm, but we must act carefully. Eli nodded. Let's go. We can't just leave them. The Aurora shifted its course. Eli felt the ship respond to his intent. Every movement smooth and precise. As they approached, he could see the small mining ship, battered and drifting, sparks flying from its damaged engines. Hold steady, Rin 7 said. I will interface with their systems and stabilize them. You guide the ship. Eli's hands moved instinctively. He had spent years repairing broken machinery, and now his skills were magnified on a galactic scale. With Rin 7's help, they synced with the vessel. Lights stabilized, engines purred, and the miners' terrified faces appeared on a small projection screen inside the Aurora. Who are you? One of the miners asked, awe and fear mixed in their voice. Eli smiled, feeling warmth spread in his chest. We're here to help. My name is Eli and this is Rin 7. You're safe now. The Aurora guided the damaged ship away from danger, lifting it above the storm and setting it on a safe trajectory back toward the nearest colony. Eli watched as relief washed over the miners' faces. See? Rin 7 said softly. This is why it chose you. Eli nodded, a feeling of pride and purpose rising in him. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was a guardian, not of power or territory, but of life and hope. Learning to trust as they continued their journey, Eli learned to communicate with the ship. Simple thoughts, a desire to help, a concern for safety, a question about a distant star, were enough for the Aurora to respond. Symbols rearranged themselves in the air, lights shifted and paths opened before him. Rin 7 explained slowly. The Aurora can sense morality. It understands intention. You cannot trick it. It gives power only to those who use it responsibly. Eli realized that this gift was more than a starship. It was a test of humanity itself. A machine that would only follow someone who valued life, kindness, and purpose over personal gain. I think I understand, he said. It's not just about fixing machines or flying through space. It's about fixing what's broken. In the universe, Rin 7 nodded. Yes, and your actions will ripple farther than you can imagine. Each life saved, each system repaired, strengthens the bond between humanity and the greater galaxy. Eli leaned back, thinking. He had never imagined that one small act of kindness, buying oil for a broken android, could lead to this. Yet here he was, entrusted with a starship capable of bridging galaxies, guided by a companion who had been more than a machine, and chosen because he still believed in repairing what others had abandoned. The vast unknown days passed as they traveled through nebulae, across asteroid belts, and through star systems that Eli had only seen in old maps or ancient textbooks. He repaired broken colonies, stabilized failing satellites, and rescued lost explorers. Every task reminded him that humanity's spirit, the ability to care, could reach beyond their tiny worlds. Rin 7 grew stronger with each repair, its memory restoring pieces of its ancient mission. I can see more now, it said. I understand why humans are worth observing. You do not give up. You reach out even when it seems futile. Eli smiled faintly. Sometimes, it's the only thing we can do. The Aurora responded to his thoughts, weaving through space with grace. Lights danced across the corridors and panels adjusted themselves to anticipate his every need. The ship wasn't just a vessel. It was a partner. For the first time in his life, Eli felt the true weight of being human, not in power, not in conquest, but in care, compassion, and courage. A quiet moment. One evening, Eli stood beside a viewport, watching a distant galaxy spiral with colors that no painter could ever capture. Rin 7 joined him silently. You've changed, the android said. I have, Eli asked. Yes, You understand now that repair is not only about machines. It is about life, hope, and connection. The Aurora has given you more than speed or reach, or it has given you purpose. Eli looked at Rin 7 and nodded. I guess. You could say that one small act of kindness started all of this. Rin 7's blue eyes glowed brighter, and that is why it will continue. You and I, together, will show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. Eli smiled, feeling the stars around him pulse like a heartbeat. The Aurora hummed beneath his feet, alive, waiting, and ready for the next challenge. He had been a mechanic, a fixer of broken things, and now he was something more, a beacon of hope. Traveling through the vast universe, guided not by ambition but by compassion. And as the Aurora's light stretched across the galaxy, Eli Warren realized that this was only the beginning. Eli Warren stood at the main viewport of the Aurora's promise, watching the stars stretch into glowing trails as the ship sailed between galaxies. The hum of the Starship was steady beneath his feet, a comforting reminder that he was no longer just a man in a small desert colony. He was part of something vast, something alive. Beside him, Rin 7 moved with ease, its restored limbs and gleaming blue eyes a testament to the care Eli had shown. Together, they had already repaired failing colonies, rescued stranded vessels, and brought hope to explorers lost in the void. Yet despite all that, Eli felt that the journey had only just begun. Do you ever get tired of this? Eli asked quietly, more to himself than to Rin 7. Traveling? No, Rin 7 replied. But even I wonder how far your compassion can reach. Eli smiled faintly. I guess we'll find out. A signal from afar, the calm was broken by Rin 7's sensors alerting him to a faint distress signal. It was weak, almost imperceptible, coming from the edge of an uncharted system. Eli leaned over the console and focused. The Aurora pulsed in response, its lights shifting to indicate a path. Looks like someone needs help, Eli said. Rin 7 nodded. It is a small research outpost. The life support systems are failing and the crew has limited time. The Aurora can reach them before disaster strikes, but you must act quickly. Eli's hands moved over the controls instinctively. He had learned the ship's responses over weeks of travel, how it reacted to his thoughts, his intentions, his care. With Rin 7 guiding the systems, the Aurora shot through the void like a ribbon of light, bending space to bring them closer to the outpost. When they arrived, the outpost floated silently near a gas giant, its systems flickering weakly. Eli's heart ached at the sight. Tiny human lives alone in the dark, fighting to survive against impossible odds. Let's save them, he said firmly. Repairing hope. The Aurora's docking arms extended carefully to secure the outpost. Eli felt the ship's intelligence merge with his own mind, showing him the precise points that needed repair. He followed the guidance, his hands moving over panels, rewiring connections, and rerouting power. Rin 7 interfaced with the station's computers, stabilizing energy cores and recalibrating sensors. The crew of the outpost, pale and exhausted, watched in awe as the impossible unfolded before them. Who are you? One of them whispered. Eli smiled, wiping grease from his hands, an old habit he could not shake. Just a mechanic, he said softly, trying to fix what's broken. Rin 7 added, and a human who believes in hope. In moments, the station's lights returned to full brightness. Life support systems hummed steadily, and the crew could finally breathe freely. They looked at Eli and Rin 7 with gratitude beyond words, their fear replaced with hope. Eli felt a warmth in his chest, not unlike the first time he had powered Rin 7. Acts of repair, small or great, had a ripple effect he had never imagined. A message from the Elithar later. As the Aurora sailed away from the outpost, Rin 7 alerted Eli to a communication signal, not from humans, but from the Elithar, the beings who had first sent the ship to him. Eli Warren, the voice spoke in his mind, clear and calm. We have observed your journey. Your use of the Aurora demonstrates not only skill but virtue. Your actions honor humanity's potential. Eli hesitated. I'm just doing what anyone should do. Yet few do, the voice replied. Your choices have strengthened the bond between human and Elithar, between life and light. You carry not just a ship but the example of what it means to be human across the stars. Eli looked at Rin 7, who glowed brighter than usual. I guess we're making a difference. Yes, Rin 7 said softly. And this is only the beginning. First contact beyond human space weeks passed as Eli and Rin 7 traveled through regions unknown to humanity. Strange star systems, uninhabited planets, and drifting nebulae revealed themselves. Yet it was not the vastness of space that held the greatest challenge. It was the beings they met. One day, a signal appeared. A small fleet of explorers from a distant species, the Kitherans, caught in a gravitational anomaly near a collapsed star. Their ships were damaged, energy failing, and their communications in disarray. Eli studied the situation. "We can help them," he said. "We have to." Rin 7 interfaced with the fleet, translating the alien language and coordinating repairs. The Aurora's systems hummed in response to Eli's intent, projecting energy shields, repairing hulls, and stabilizing engines. The Kitheran ships, once disabled, now floated safely in formation. Their leaders approached the Aurora, curious and cautious. Eli stepped forward. "I'm Eli Warren," he said, his voice steady. "I'm a mechanic, and we're here to help." The Kitherans paused, unsure how to respond to a human commanding such a powerful vessel. Then, with careful gestures, they indicated gratitude. Eli realized then that action spoke louder than words. Kindness and aid transcended species, language and culture. Learning and teaching, the journey continued, and each day brought new challenges: rogue asteroids, damaged satellites, lost research teams, and abandoned colonies. Every repair strengthened Eli's understanding of the Aurora and himself. He began teaching Rin 7 human philosophies, stories of courage, and lessons about empathy, while Rin 7 taught him the ancient designs of alien technology, celestial navigation, and memory restoration techniques. They became more than pilot and companion. They were partners in preserving life and hope across the galaxy. Eli marveled at the thought: a mechanic from a small desert colony, traveling the stars, teaching and learning alongside an android built by another civilization, using a living starship as both tool and teacher. Rin 7 turned to him one day. "Your humanity inspires all that you touch. It is why we were saved and why the Aurora responded. You have proven the value of care." Eli smiled faintly. "I only did what I thought was right, but I never imagined it would matter this much." Rin 7's eyes glowed softly. "It always mattered. You only needed to act." The legend grows months turned into years. News of a human traveling with an android aboard a miraculous starship spread quietly among colonies and distant worlds. Stories circulated of a mechanic who repaired broken ships, restored failing colonies, and brought hope to those abandoned by time and circumstance. Eli never sought fame. His joy came from seeing systems work again, from knowing life had been saved, from watching civilizations begin to thrive because someone cared enough to act. Rin 7 recorded each adventure, slowly piecing together its lost memories. "The galaxy has much to teach us," it said, "but humanity's heart is rare among all beings." Eli looked out at the endless stars. "And it's ours to show them," he said. Returning to humanity after a particularly long mission, Eli and Rin 7 returned briefly to Port Solon. The colony had changed little, but now its inhabitants looked at the sky differently, remembering the starship that had arrived years ago. Children pointed at distant stars, imagining wonders beyond their desert home. Adults whispered of hope and kindness, of one mechanic who had touched the universe. Eli walked through the familiar streets, the same dust beneath his feet, and felt a deep connection to home. "No matter how far we go," he said quietly to Rin 7, "we never forget where we came from." Rin 7's voice was soft. "That is why you were chosen, to carry your humanity wherever it is needed." The mechanic who reached the stars, Eli Warren, once a simple mechanic, now traveled across galaxies, not to conquer, but to repair, restore, and inspire. Rin 7, once a broken android, became his closest ally, and the Aurora's promise carried their compassion to every corner of space. The Elithar, observing from beyond, noted the impact. A human had reminded the stars themselves that kindness, empathy, and courage could be as powerful as any technology. And so, Eli's story became legend, not for battles won, empires built, or treasures taken, but for the quiet, persistent acts of repair and care that reminded the universe that humanity could rise above fear and selfishness. Wherever there was life, wherever there was something broken, Eli and Rin 7 arrived, a mechanic and an android, guided by the living starship that recognized their heart. And somewhere, Deep among the stars, the Elithar smiled. Humanity had not only survived, it had proven that,